school football fans, and welcome into a special edition of the Pigskin. That's right, this is your bracket breakdown show. Everybody that you want to find out who's in, who's not, what are the matchups, where are the rankings, we've got all that and more on the way over about the next hour and a half. My name is Brian Skowronski, and I have got Travis Bracket Breakdown, Big Mac Berardi with me this morning, and this is your time to shine. You're such an analytics junkie. You'd be looking at this stuff from week one all the way up through now, Trav, so I'm going to turn it over to you for about the next 20 seconds. Just bask in this, baby. The playoffs, they're here. All the numbers, they're lined up. We got the matchups.
Well, first of all, once again, thank you, Joe Idol, for all of the work. We are not worthy. Helped me out so much. But, you know, as you saw on the Pigskin, we kind of knew who was going to play. But today, this is the day I've been waiting 365 days for since the last time we did this. But we know where everybody's going to be, who they're playing, possible second, third round matchups. We got everything for you this afternoon before the NFL kicks off at 1 o'clock. And then you go into nervous mode.
Well, hey, but I'm smiling for now. Everything's all good. We'll have actually a countdown to depression here. So there it is. We're under 2 hours away from Browns Ravens, but at least for now, hey, Cleveland fans, that's right. Very optimistic this time of day. We're always walking into our Sunday mornings feeling like, why not us? Why not this Sunday? Why not a big victory today?
I got to wait 8 more hours. So it's...
Yeah, we got a little bit of time on our side. I'm heavily caffeinated up, and then you, in typical West Virginia fashion, you've got your red Solo. So without further ado, let's go ahead and show you at least what it's going to look like for you guys in terms of the playoff rounds. For the first couple, it's all on Friday night, buddy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This is what it's going to look like, Trav. Every single game is going to kick off at 7 p.m. this Friday, and then next, after that, you look down at the bottom of our graphic here, Divisions 1, 2, 3, and 5. They're going to continue to party on Friday nights. The rest will move over to Saturdays, that being 4, 6, and 7.
And with us, 4, 6, and 7 is the majority of our teams. So, you know, we're going to have a packed Saturday. Well, hopefully we'll have a packed Saturday night of high school football live and free right here on the OH Report. But let's do this. Let's get into it, Ski.
All right. Let's not wait anymore. Let's dive right into Division 2, or D2, Region number 6. We've got all the teams. Here's the matchups that you guys can expect. The top seed out there is Avon Highland checking in at number 2, despite that spotless record, but a little bit better of a resume checking in. And a lot of teams up there in the top 4 that obviously are going to be some really tough contenders, Travis, when you look at the likes of the Anthony Wayne and obviously Toledo Central Catholic, who's going to be playing one of our local teams.
Yep, they will be taking on the Ashland Arrows. Ashland getting in week number 10 after defeating Lexington by the score of 42-28. They get in. They have, I think, a really good 3 wide receivers on their squad in the likes of Jonathan Metzger, Landon McFrederick, and Grayson Stewry, who also is a great basketball player on the court. But them catching passes from Nathan Bernard, one of the best quarterback to wide receiver tandems in the OCC, and they got a tough one. They're averaging 34.7 points per game, allowing 25.9, and that's the big thing against this Toledo Central Catholic squad that really hasn't given up many points.
No, 3 shutouts for them. They've won 9 in a row. Their only loss to St. Edwards. They know how to play football a little bit up there on the west side of Cleveland. And then Coach Greg Dempsey, he's been doing it forever, over 200 wins. He's collected 3 chips along the way. And this was a team that was in the regional finals just a season ago. The Irish, they're one of those staple programs that you can almost always expect Travis is going to be competitive and be right there on the verge of making a Final Four. So for Ashland, what a test out of the gates.
Absolutely, and we saw it. They played, what was it, Lexington a few years ago for
the
a
regional
championship.
title, Kate Stover.
Kate Stover against another Ohio State commit, I believe, or a Big Ten commit and running back. But that's Toledo Central Catholic. They just get these Division I, Division II athletes out there, and they're just constantly retooling restocking. They're not rebuilding, they're restocking, and they're just a state contender year in and year out. And it's going to be quite the matchup for the Arrows in week number 1. If the Arrows can get say they get an upset, that's a lot of momentum going forward, knocking off a team like that.
And they've got some pretty healthy momentum, having a come-from-behind win on Friday. So let's hear from their head coach, Sean Cedar, who is joining us right here and now to kind of get his thoughts heading into this game with Toledo Central Catholic. And, Coach, it's a Sunday morning here on the OH Report. So glad that you can join us. So, well, what's it look like for you typically on a Sunday when you've got a game on the horizon coming up on a Friday?
Usually Sunday's kind of our family day, our kind of chill day. We switched it up this week just because of the playoffs. So yesterday was kind of the lighter day. And as we get into around noon or so, we'll start breaking down some more film and putting together a game plan.
Yeah, you look like you're about to break down some film. You are surrounded by all black. It's kind of like a little bit of an ominous feel there, got a Darth Vader theme to it. So you're heading in, obviously, an underdog this week, but you knock off one of your rivals on Friday, a come-from-behind win against Lexington. How sweet was that one to clinch your way into the postseason and knock off the purple and gold?
Well, that was a big game, especially for our seniors. I think you guys had referenced it. We started out 21-0. Things weren't looking great, but our kids are really tough kids, really strong leadership, and they kind of overcame that adversity, fought through it, and found a way to win.
Looking forward now, Coach, you're going up against Toledo Central Catholic, a perennial power in Division II. They were in D3 as well a couple years ago, but they haven't allowed more than 17 points this season in any game. What's it going to take to get some points on the board for you guys against them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sure a lot of teams would love to know the answer to that one. Their closest game, of course, is to St. Ed's, 23-20. We'll probably approach them kind of like we did West Holmes, because West Holmes we feel like had a really good team and does. So we'll just kind of the thing we tell our kids is how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So we'll just kind of keep taking it and try to put some points on the board and go out and compete with them.
Given the opponent this week, do you feel like you need to kind of convince yourself and the players that it's just another game, just another Friday? Or do you take the mentality in here, this is King Kong, guys. We got to really go after them. We need the best game plan that we can. Don't let them tear down our city.
I think we'll go in and just treat it like another game. Be thankful we get to play some bonus ball and we get another week of practice. We'll acknowledge that they're obviously a really good football team. But that didn't really change how we approach the process. Just go out, have some fun. And the nice thing for us is we're obviously the underdogs. They're a really, really good team, so we can just go out, play loose, and just kind of let it fly.
All right, so enough about them. Let's talk about the Arrows now. Why does Ashland have a chance rolling into Friday night? Don't mind what the newspaper people are going to say. They're going to be counting you out all week, Coach. But why do you actually head into Friday knowing that you've got an opportunity to steal a big win on the road?
I think the biggest thing comes down to kind of that underdog mentality. They're a really good team. We know that. Everybody knows that. But I think we have a really good team too. And when there's not that extra pressure of, hey, you have to go out and perform and you're expected to win, I think, like I said, our guys can play loose. We can have some fun playing football and just kind of attack at one player, one series at a time. Give ourselves a chance to win a game there in the fourth quarter.
All right, Coach, we really appreciate the time. We don't have to spend all this talking about football, though. Last question before you get out of here. You said it's kind of a family opportunity for you here on a Sunday. What's it going to look like in the Cedar household? How are you going to spend this particular afternoon? It's beautiful out.
Yeah, probably play outside. We got the leaves kind of all over the yard. I got a 4-year-old who loves to play football, so I'm sure we'll be playing some tackle football. My daughter will be out there as well, so just kind of having some fun outside, but we still have nice weather.
Yeah, make sure that you teach the daughter the proper tackling techniques. Maybe the next ice box that we could have, a Little Giants Part 2 coming in Ashland. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right, Sean Cedar, head coach of the Ashland Arrows. Really appreciate the time,
Thanks,
man.
Coach.
Continue success.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Trav, so it's great to hear from Coach and see that he's walking into this game feeling like, they got some dudes, and they do as well. You look at Luke Bryant, I think that he's really matured throughout the season now that he's getting back to being healthy, banged up a little bit early on in the year. And you touched on all the receivers, but Jonathan Metzger, that's a record-setting guy for them, and he's got a great attitude. He joined us for a post-game interview on Friday night. He said he's been practicing. He's been training for those moments to get back on the OH Report, have a chance to do those MVP things. I think he wants one more of those in his back pocket before he ends his career.
Yeah, he's constantly, and he's in our stat leaders as well, week in and week out. He had 9 catches, 176 yards, and a touchdown. The 3 wide receivers, Metzger, McFrederick, and Stewry, who had catches, all 3 had 1 catch of over 50 yards, 56 for Stewry, 88 McFrederick, 66 for Metzger. So not only do you have 3 guys that can catch the ball, but they can all be 3 big playmakers at any time. And that's what you're going to need if you want to pull off an upset against a team like Toledo Central Catholic. You want to get one of those big chunk plays out of there to get that momentum, and they have the pieces that they could do that.
All right, we want to hear from you, the fans, basically all day during this show, so drop us some comments. I see we got some few rolling in already. Shannon Irving giving us some stars as well, so much appreciated for that. Let us know if you got any questions for us that you would like us to answer throughout the course of today's show. We're going to be going from the big schools all the way down to Division 7 and the small school, so let's keep it rolling. Let's keep the train on schedule here, and let's move on to Division 3 Region 10, where we've got quite a few local teams that are going to be taking shape right here in this playoff bracket. You look at Holy Name, just 7 wins, Trav, but they are the top seed. Tiffin Columbian, always going to be a tough out. So is Clyde, won a state championship just a couple of seasons ago. And then at number 5, just missing out on the potential for having 2 home playoff games, Mansfield Senior, a team that it's going to be a tough out for anyone to tangle with those Tigers.
Yeah, but the matchup they get in week number 10, I was surprised. I asked John Davis this will be the first ever matchup between these two. Ontario and Mansfield Senior, the 5-12 matchup. A lot of storylines here. First, you know, the way Coach Eckert has been able to get this team throughout the season. Big win, last-second touchdown against Shelby to clinch the playoff spot. But going up against a Mansfield Senior team that, you hear the stories of, some Ontario players going to Mansfield Senior, so maybe a little bit of bad blood between the two. But I'm still in shock that this is the first time they've ever played each other.
Yeah, they're just right down the road, separated by just Park Avenue West from one school to the next, or 4th Street, whichever route you want to get from one school to the other. So I agree, a little bit stunned that they've never met face-to-face on the gridiron before. And you look at the coaching matchup, you're like, well, a first-year guy going against a dude in Choky Bradley in the playoffs again, 4th straight season for them, might be a little bit of a mismatch. I don't know, Travis. Aaron Eckert's got his team playing with a lot of confidence. Of course, they had that lull in the middle of the season. They came out of the gates 3-0, started dropping some games, but they've turned the page, turned the corner, and now the Warriors playing a lot better football. And remember, Eckert was the coach over at Bucyrus the last time that they were relevant in football, so he's got the pedigree, and he's got these kids believing heading into their first ever trip to Arlen Field.
And this is their first earned playoff appearance since 2010. I say earned because in 2020 everybody made the postseason, but he has his team turned around, and they have a very good rushing attack. Drew Yetter and Chase Studer both over 600 yards running, and then their quarterback, Bogpin Miller, he has 1,400 yards passing going into last week, and then he has over 300 yards rushing, so that defensive front against Mansfield is going to be tested against this running attack. And then on the other side of things, for Mansfield Senior, they have a couple guys that can run the ball as well, and Zion Brown, Ricky Mills at the goal line.
Sure.
But then you have Duke Reese throwing to some big playmakers on the edges.
Yeah, Duke has really kind of taken the control of the offense here in his first full season as a starter. And you see the combination, both he and Amar Davis, those two have been very special. Amar's got about half of Duke's yards passing on the season, 20.2 yards per catch for him, 7 of the 14 touchdowns as well. But Duke here of late, dude, he's getting it going. He had 4 total tutties in the rivalry win, the city game over at StarTech Stadium, and the 5 rushing touchdowns, most of those have come in the last few weeks. So I really like the maturation of this guy.
Absolutely.
And the Tigers go as he goes offensively. The defense is going to be there, Trav. We know that. They're only giving up a shade over 2 touchdowns per contest, 15.2 points per game to be exact. But that combination right there, you just see the speed, man. Amar the Star, he just strikes fear in any secondary, anytime. You really do have to have safety coverage and or try to bracket this guy, because if not, he's going to do that to you. He's going to cook with the salt all night long.
And it seems like every year there's a big playmaker like that. You had the Grosses in there,
Yep.
and then now you have Amar Davis come out. But Duke Reese, we saw this in the preseason, the little glimpses of greatness from him. He could thread the needle when he needed to, but I think he just needed a few games to get going. They had some tough matchups early on, Mansfield, Washington, West Holmes, but as each week got better, he got a little more confident, and now he's that player that we were thinking he would be in the preseason, and it's at the right time going into the postseason as a 5 seed.
That's why the Tigers now, I mean, they're scoring. It's not going to blow you away, but 28 points per game, just a little bit above that. Ontario, though, let's give them some love. They're scoring 30 per contest, giving up, though, 27. So while this is a team certainly that they can win a shootout, they get involved in probably too many of those style of games, but have won 3 in a row.
Yeah, the last 6 games they've given up 48, 48, 46, and then they've gotten a little bit better, but it's against teams that are 1-9, 1-9, 5-5, 26 and 28. And I do want to give a shout out to our own Bruce Wyrick. In 1971, senior high actually scrimmaged Ontario at Ontario, but it was a scrimmage. So Bruce, thank you for watching, and great job this season for that crew as well. But back to Ontario, 48, 48, 46, and then they played a little lesser competition in Pleasant and Harding, gave up only 20 and 6, and then Shelby in that game where they had to come back, they gave up 28. And against the Mansfield senior squad, they're going to have to play really good defense against a high-powered Tiger offense.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the defense because we are going to be hearing from their defensive coordinator here soon. Hopefully we get Sean Adams on the line and we'll have a chance to talk a little bit more about what we've seen from the Tigers defensively this season because that's kind of been their bread and butter here. They've had the stars like you've talked about. They've had the big speed and the playmakers, a lot of players, but you can almost always feel like the Tigers are going to be in the game because defensively they don't allow you to pull away unless your name is West Holmes or Mansfield, Washington.
Also, West Holmes is probably a state favorite in Division IV. Mansfield, Washington, a state favorite in Division II. It's not like that, there are a couple slouches, but I do want to know, how is it that Mansfield Senior always blocks at least 3 or 4 kicks a season? What do they do special teams-wise defensively? Because we saw it in that state championship game that forced overtime. That season they had a couple big block kicks, but it continues each year in and year out. They just have that key to block a kick or two, and that may be the difference in a couple games here in the postseason.
Special teams, that third element, Trav, you can't overlook it. And they have the kicking game, too, with Sean Putt.
Yes.
He's been a record setter for them. Had the game a couple of weeks ago where I believe he made 4 field goals.
He was our phenom,
And was our Friday night phenom. So if the Tigers are clicking on all cylinders, you would expect them to be the favorite going into this game. But for Ontario, make a quick case, Trav, for why this might not be a typical matchup that you would say, man, a 5 versus a 12. Give me like the college bracket feel to it where there's always that 12 upset. Why Ontario might be able to get this one done.
Controlling the pace and success running the ball. If they can, I always compare this to Lucas, how they just run clock just 3-4 yards at a time. If they can continue to get ahead of the sticks, get 3 or 4 yards with Yetter, Studer, maybe bootleg every once in a while with Miller, maybe get a 3 or 4 yard pass, just continually move down the field, get a score. Just continue to do that. It might be a shootout, but it'll be a slow shootout. So you might see like 21-21 after 3 quarters. But if Ontario controls the pace, if they can run the ball, maybe get a play here or there through the passing game, they might be able to stick with Mansfield Senior. The longer a 12 seed can stick with a 5, the more confidence you get. Just like you said in basketball, the longer it stays close, the more that team, that lower seed, has a chance at pulling off the upset.
And I see some comments rolling in about this particular matchup. And what a great matchup, says Rafael Osario, my guy.
What's
former
up?
TY Tiger back in the day. Rafael says Ontario's D-line is no joke and also throws in their speed, coaching, anticipation, and film study is how the Tigers have been able to get themselves to a point where they're blocking kicks, blocking punts, and making a big difference in special teams.
Well, you see that like defensive and offensive strategy, but you rarely see people study the special teams, and that might be why Mansfield Senior is so much better on special teams, especially defensively, because they actually study what other kicking teams do and things like that. And I know that's what they did against in the state championship game against who did they play in the state title game? I forget the team.
Oh, a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Trotwood
Madison, yeah. But they studied the tape, found the holes, and were able to keep that. And if only the rule where you're able to return a kick was in play there. But anyway, I think we have our caller.
All right, so we've got Sean Adams, the defensive coordinator for the Mansfield TY Tigers, on the line with us now. If he's not breaking down film, he's probably out at the hog farm. Where are you this morning, Sean? What are you doing?
Well, we're at the office getting ready for a very good Ontario football team. It's going to be a fun week, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, I see that you're not on the farm this morning.
On the
but,
field.
You're on the field. Typically, is bacon your go-to? Is that what you're eating to get ready? With some tiger juice, of course. Such a stoic guy. Look at him. He just stares right into your soul.
I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't. What you say?
Well, Coach, heading into the tournament with 6 straight wins, what would you say that you've seen from your team here in this second half of the season that's elevated you into the place where you're at now, the number 5 seed in the region?
I think we have a bad connection right now from Arlen Field.
All right. So if we can get Sean back later, we'll bring him in. But it looks like they're out there. They're at the office. They're doing their thing, making sure that they are ready for what Coach said is a very good Ontario team. So obviously the Tigers not overlooking them. They're back to work. Oh, here we go, Sean. It looks like we got you back with the connection. I was just curious about this, your second half of the season. You dropped those 2 games in weeks 3 and 4. Tell me about just the bounce back that we've seen from you guys and how you've elevated your defense.
Well, I think first and foremost, the offense has been able to run the ball extremely well. We've gotten better on special teams. And then, defensively, I think we've been pretty steady all year long. Great leadership over there with our 2 linebackers, Mekhi Bradley and Leo Hess. And then, of course, you got Ricky Mills up front. And then we got a really good secondary. So I think all year long we've been pretty steady and consistent on defense. But offensively, since week 3, we've been able to establish the run quite a bit better.
With you at the helm, Coach, the Tigers have become known for their defensive prowess. You're giving up just a shade over 2 touchdowns per game this year. What would make this group special, would you say? You touched on a couple of the kids already, but what about the entire unit makes them such a juggernaut?
Well, they get along with each other. They want to play for each other. They take care of each other, and I think most importantly, they hold each other accountable. I remember them talking about one time being out there, and I know it's happened multiple times, but somebody made a mistake, and they're like, come on, we can't be doing that. The whole team broke down because you did your own thing. Next play, I think Ricky busted in there and made a tackle for loss. So, they just hold each other accountable, and then we're just tough kids, too. So it's been a work in progress. This is my 11th year, and it's not just me. We got Coach Fletcher and Choke and Coach Mo Bradley, Coach Ollie Gross. I mean, it's a collective effort, and we all just want to do what's best for these kids.
Hey, Coach. Early on in the season, you played 2 really good teams in Massillon, Washington, who's number 1 seed in their region in Division 2, and then West Holmes, who's the 2 seed in the region, number 2 in all of Division 4. I know they were losses, but defensively, what did you learn from those 2 games that you were able to, adjust or change the rest of the way to be so successful defensively?
Well, if you go back and look at those 2 games, and I've alluded to this already, I thought that we played fairly well defensively against both those teams. I at least look at the West Holmes game, and with 3 minutes to go in the game, it's 24-7. And then we get a 4th down stop, and then they call a penalty, and then the floodgates open. So, and then part of those 24 was 7 points off of a pick 6. So in essence, it's 17 points, and then Massillon scored 3 touchdowns on special teams. So, I really think that we've been just steady all year long defensively, and we've had to do a few things differently, but I think it all boils down to holding each other accountable, being tough, and doing things the right way.
Well, Coach, you're going to get an all-Richland County matchup on Friday night against Ontario. We're expecting the house to be packed, of course. Not that you really need to sell this thing. I think it kind of speaks for itself. But if you want to give a plea to the fans out there in Richland County, even if you're not a Tiger or an Ontario fan, why should we get the full 10,000 out of Arlen Field on Friday night?
Well, I think, I've mentioned this before. This is a good football team. Ontario, they're big, they're physical, they're fast, they can throw the ball, they can run the ball, and their defense is consistent. I think at least for us, this is the first time since I believe Clear Fork was in the league that we've been able to play somebody other than Madison or Lexington that's in the county. And that's kind of nice for us, and we're looking forward to that. And you're not going to be able to get a better stadium to watch a football game in late October than Arlen Field. So come on out here and watch the Tigers and Warriors go at it.
Coach, last question for you. Bruce Wyrick chimed in. He said the only time that you guys have met Ontario was in a scrimmage back in 1971. What memories do you have of that one?
Well, I don't know. Somebody brought up when we played Mount Vernon is 1912 when we last shut them out, and I thought I was 5 years old then, so I don't know how old I was in 71, but I think it doesn't matter. We're ready to play Ontario, and I'm sure they're ready to play us, and let's just go at it and have fun and see what happens.
Aging gracefully, Coach. Haven't looked a minute over whatever you've been since 1912, so hey, thanks for the time. Continued success, and we see you putting in the preparation on a Sunday, so we know that you guys are going to be prepared when the Tigers take the field on Friday night. Thank you so much, Sean Adams.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Brian, thanks for all you guys do for high school sports. Thank you.
Happy to do it. Of course, we'll be seeing you on Friday night over there at Arlen Field, Travis, and I think that's probably the matchup that most people that are tuning in, well, I don't know. We got a lot of fans from a lot of schools out there.
Especially Carey. So
yeah,
you gotta wait till towards the end because we get there. But
we'll get to Carey eventually. This is a big one.
Well, you saw during the pigskin when I first saw the matchup, and everybody was pumped for that. I cannot wait to see these two Richland County schools go at it. Quite the long drive though for Ontario to get over to Mansfield. So hopefully they leave early, but I hope Arlen Field is packed for this one. A friend of mine came in from West Virginia yesterday, and I drove him by Arlen Field. I said, this is one of the oldest venues in the state for high school football. It fits 10,000. It's one of the coolest places, and he thought the same thing. So watching that place hopefully get filled up to 10,000 fans or close, 8,000 even, I don't know, something like that. Add the bands in there too, but I cannot wait to see this one go down on Friday night.
I think the only thing that would make that drive a long one going from Ontario to Mansfield or vice versa is just all the different drive-through opportunities that you have. There's just too much food, too much availability, a lot of snack issues, definitely for our OH reporters. And I don't know, maybe it's tough for others out there to go by the Long John Silvers or the Taco Bells.
Arby's. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
We're going to take a break. Want to give one quick thank you to Knox Community Hospital for making this show possible today. But we're going to be back with so much more. When we return, we dive full force in Division 4, Region 14. So much local activity. You're going to want to stick around and see that one. What's up, America? Brian Skowronski here, and if you want to see me and the gang chop it up with some unintelligent conversation, we've got the show for you. Check out the OH Report video podcast every Monday, exclusively right here on the OH Report.
Surrey, nice look to Denbo. Beautiful behind the back move. Oh my goodness, ankle breaker. And it's the shot. Wow.
Being aggressive and traveling, or he's trapping.
Inside to Holloway. 2-on-2 fast break. Ramsey has it, takes it herself. Off the glass. And Curfew comes back.
At Knox Community Hospital, your primary care physician is more than someone who delivers your test results, more than someone who writes prescriptions, more than someone who listens to your heart. We are your healthcare partner who takes the time to know you, listen to your concerns, and provide you with expert personalized care to make and keep you well. Because to us, you're more than just numbers on a chart. You're a neighbor and a friend. Knox Community Hospital, in the community, for the community.
I'm Travis Big League Berardi. Catch me every week with my Country Roads rankings. We'll go over the small school top 10 football schools here in the area.
Our number one receiver coming from the Shelby Whippets, Isaiah Ramsey.
He's caught our attention over here, and we're certainly going to keep an eye on the Willard Flashes.
We will see you next week on the Stat Leaders, brought to you by Spitzer of Mansfield.
Take a look at all the action from Friday Night Football right here in North Central Ohio with great analysis, highlights, coach interviews, and so much more every single Friday night right here on the OH Report.
Thanks for starting your day with us here on the Bracket Breakdown Show. I'm Brian Skowronski. I am a big Browns fan, and guess what? The countdown is on, folks! That's right. Let the depression set in, but not yet. just about 90 minutes away from Browns versus Ravens, so at least for now, I'm eternally optimistic, like I hope all of Browns Nation is right along with me. But I've got a Steelers fan actually with me
I still got like 8 hours left. We're Sunday night against the Dolphins. Actually, I think Steeler fans are actually rooting for you guys today too, just to beat the Ravens. I don't. It's a weird
our
feeling.
producer says
It's a
not
weird
so fast,
feeling.
my friend.
Weird
Let's not
feeling.
go that far.
Well, analytically, you know, I'm looking at all the statistics and stuff, and we'd have a better chance of taking the division if. I mean, anybody. Our division's terrible. I don't even want to just let's get back to the brackets.
Let's talk about a division that's actually pretty good.
Yes.
Division 4, Region 14. Bring up the graphic. Here's all the different matchups that we've got going down, and this is where most of our local teams are housed, Trav. You see there's a ton of front runners up there at the top, including West Holmes. We've got Clear Fork in the mix, Bellevue, Galion, Upper Sandusky, River Valley, Shelby. So the North Central Ohio teams, they go on and on and on. But we all kind of expect West Holmes to be the favorite. They are the defending champs, at least in Division 3. They won their region last year.
Yeah.
Moving on to 14-0, got to the state final.
Well, it's tough for the likes of Clear Fork and everybody because Glenville dropped. They were a regional champion.
Sure.
And then West Holmes dropped. They're regional. That's number 1 and number 2 in the state, I believe, the recent AP poll. Yeah, it's just tough for these other teams. But West Holmes, they are so good. They're so stacked offensively. It's a tough matchup for the Shelby Whippets, who were able to get in on a loss by Rossford on Friday night. They get in at number 15, Ontario, like we said earlier. The last second touchdown clinched it for them and got them a little bit more higher in Division 3, Region 10. But Shelby down there at D4, Region 14, number 15, it's tough task. And we even saw what West Holmes did to them last year with a better offensive attack for the Whippets. And yeah, this is going to be this is quite the test for the Whippets.
Yeah, and you look at what Glenville's actually been able to do. 6 straight shutouts for them, Trav, and they've scored at least 39 in each of those games. They're undefeated. Teddy Ginn Sr.'s got that team rocking and rolling. But let's jump into our first matchup spotlight here. We've been talking quite a bit about the Knights, the number 2 seed. They are perfect on the season. Shelby at 5-5, sputtering a bit here down the stretch, and the offense for West Holmes.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
3 in our stat leaders, we do 3 categories: passing, rushing, receiving. Their top players all in the top 5 of those.
Right.
You have Mason Wolf, who's over 2,400 yards passing. Kyle Maltrich, he is a playmaker, over 1,000 yards receiving. He's close to 20 touchdowns. And then Sam Williams-Dixon, the Big Ten recruit, as a junior right now. We saw what he did at Loudonville against some good teams in the playoffs, helped them to that run before they transferred over to West Holmes last year. But he's also has close to 1,500 yards rushing, 23 touchdowns. They are just so balanced there, and then the defense as well is great. That's why we continually say, and even Eric Will, which you'll see later on in the show, says they're a favorite to possibly win a state championship if they can get past Glenville down the line. But right now, like I said, Shelby's got a tough task ahead of them, but that's why you play the game. You never know.
I think Zach Gardner made the right move leaving Sandy Valley now 6 seasons ago. West Holmes has become a juggernaut here within the area, and that likely is going to continue into next season as well. A ton of these kids are coming back. And for the Shelby Whippets, they got a freshman at quarterback, Baby Goat, Braden DeVito. He's a fun, exciting player. He's got his team averaging almost 4 touchdowns per game, Travis. The problem for them is up front. They get gashed a little bit. You can certainly run on them, something that West Holmes does very well. The Whippets give up almost 26 points per game, and you just never like to see a team limping into the postseason. They've lost 4 of their last 5 after they came out of the gates hot.
Yeah, and it's just, the back end of their schedule also was pretty tough. Other than that loss to Ontario, they had to play Clear Fork, who finished 9-1. Caden Shadone in River Valley, Dane Nauman in Highland, Gabe Ivey in Galion. Those are the last 5 games that they played. So really tough competition. But this is a younger team with a young quarterback. DeVito, another one of those players in the top 5 in our stats rankings in the area, over 2,200 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, but he has 12 interceptions, so that youth may come into play. You got to think that West Holmes is going to apply the pressure and make him throw a good pass here and there.
Yeah, West Holmes obviously going to be a big favorite in that game, but as we mentioned, that is why they kick it off. That is why they play. Expect Sam Williams-Dixon to do stuff kind of like that, though. pretty routinely against the Whippets. Maybe they can get them in a shootout. West Holmes has allowed a few teams this year to get them in that situation. You look at Ashland a couple of weeks back, who almost put up 45 on them. All right, let's take a look at another matchup within the region, and let's shift our focus now onto the Galion Tigers at 6-4. They're going to be going on the road, taking on Bellevue, another 6-4 team. And for the Tigers, Travis, this is a squad that, again, they like to play in those high-scoring affairs.
Yeah.
Look at the River Valley game from Friday.
And look at what Gabe Ivey did. Over 300 yards rushing in that game. This is, as the season progressed, Galion's just gotten better. They played in some tough matchups early on. A 9-1 Macomb team they lost to. Carey, who's 10-0, they lost. Clear Fork won the MOAC. And then Highland and Dane Nauman, they were in kind of a shootout too before Highland pulled it out late. So they were, at least in their last 2 losses in conference, they were in it early, but then the other team pulled away. But Galion, they're a pleasant surprise to me this season after their start. Gabe Ivey over 1,100 yards rushing. Braxton Prosser coming in over 700 yards passing. Elijah Chafin coming over from Mount Gilead. He's their top receiver. Landon Campbell as well. So they have some playmakers out there, but Gabe Ivey leads them all.
And they've won 4 of 5. That's what I think is the most intriguing aspect to this team, is when you're playing with confidence, rolling into the postseason. That's what matters. It doesn't really have any impact on them. I don't think that they started out the season just 2-3 out of the gates. The big win over River Valley really cemented them in the playoffs. Yeah, they beat a Pleasant team that's just got 1 win, but they knocked off the likes of Ontario and Shelby, 2 other playoff teams during this stretch to go ahead and get them into the postseason where anything can happen. But I'm glad that you mentioned Gabe Poison Ivey and what that dude has been doing all season long. Look at the numbers, Travis, and when you add that with Prosser, just a sophomore at quarterback, but he's developed and really taken his game leaps and bounds better here during the second half of the season. That is a 1-2 dynamic punch that's going to be tough for any defensive coordinator to try to game plan for, because it's size and speed with both of those playmakers. And then up front, I mean, look at the beef. Look at the hole, allowing Gabe Ivey to get to the outside, and he had such a huge game. You talked about the career night for him just a week ago. So how could they not be riding high into week 11?
Absolutely. And their 3 main rushers, Ivey, Prosser, and then Logan Shifley, all averaging over 4 yards per carry. Gabe Ivey, 6.7 yards per rush. Prosser, 4.3. Shifley, 5.1. So that offensive line does get a good push, and then they are able to get 4 or 5 yards at a time. And against a good Bellevue squad, once again, you get that 4 or 5 yards, you just continually move the sticks, get down there, get a score early on, then you control the momentum of the game the rest of the way.
And for Bellevue, sputtering a bit down the stretch here, Trav. They just lost to Clyde, who is another playoff perennial powerhouse, but they lost that game by a point in week number 10. Knocked off Sandusky the week before that, but back-to-back losses to Perkins and Columbian, 2 really good, high-powered offenses. Their other loss on the season to Canfield. So you're like, hey, you know, those are all really great teams, so you want to overlook those. But at the same time, if you can't beat the good teams when you get into postseason where everybody's good, that can be a problem. Ed Nasani, though, one of the absolute best in the business. He's been doing it for a long time. So, you know, playing at home where there's just a little bit different kind of feel and environment there as you're looking at Bellevue right now, scoring some touchdowns, beating the Shelby Whippets. I think that this is going to be a fun matchup all the way across the board. That I don't really think that you can pick a favorite in this game because Galion's playing well right now. And Bellevue was playing well until the last couple of weeks.
That's why it's an 8-9 matchup, as those are the hardest ones to predict. But correct me if I'm wrong, did not these 2 teams meet in the playoffs a couple years ago? I think it was during the year that Bellevue was knocked off by Van Wert. I think it might have been that year.
Well, you know what? I know a guy who can answer that question for us, Travis. So I don't actually know the answer to that, but I'm sure that this gentleman does. How about Matt Dick, the head coach of the Galion Tigers, jumping on, giving us some time here, Coach. So did you indeed play Bellevue in the playoffs a couple of years ago, or is my friend misremembering?
No, he's correct. We put back, I think they were the #1 seed in our region. We went up to Bellevue and played a good first half and kind of got blown out in the second.
So for this Sunday, what's on the docket for you trying to get your team prepared coming up for Ed Nasani and the boys?
Well, I think, you're always battling injuries at this point in the season, so we're trying to find, that next guy up. At linebacker, we're searching for some depth there. And on the O-line, we keep getting more and more injuries. So it's the next guy up, and we're just trying to find out, hey, what if this guy goes down, who are we going to play next? So I think that's really been a big part of our conversations, both offense and defensive-wise. That way we can do our stuff, because I think if we got kids out there that know how to execute what we're trying to do, it's going to be a great game for us.
And for you guys, this is the 4th straight season that you're into the tournament, that you're playing in the round of the playoffs. So building a winning culture, Coach, now that you've got to really kind of put your stamp there on the program for 7 seasons, do you feel like that's what's happening now, is that guys are starting to figure out what it takes to win consistently year in, year out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it helps that we got a really good junior class that has a ton of talent. In our senior class, we only got 3 guys that are still healthy enough to play, but they're really, really good, high-quality kids. And it's just the right mix of kids. I think, that whole standard and that stuff's nice, but the truth is every year is a new team. This team's been special. They really come together and battle through adversity.
Coach, speaking of that adversity, your first half of the season, a lot went on. I know tragedy struck the team as well, but the second half of the season, after losing 3 of your first 5, it changed. You guys got some big wins. What changed in that second half of your season?
I think guys really understanding what we're trying to do, offense and defense, just getting more comfortable with our schemes. I think offensively, Braxton Prosser, he's a really, really special football player. He's one of the best football players in MOAC, but he can also be one of the worst. When you're a sophomore, you just make sophomore mistakes sometimes. But he has really, really grown. And when he's on and Gabe Ivy's on, and with our big O-line, it makes for a lot of fun as an offensive coordinator, offensive coach. And our defense, they just really do a great job of making timely stops. And again, they've gotten more comfortable with making week-to-week adjustments, which allows us to take away some of the things the other team's offense wants to do.
Yeah, wins in 4 of your last 5, Coach, down the stretch. But like Travis mentioned, you're playing for more than just wins this season. How much inspiration would you say that you guys have been drawing, just trying to play for Cooper and going out there and making sure that you're putting on a performance that would make him proud?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to lose a senior football player during football season. I never imagined how hard that would be for our community, our school, our kids, our senior class. Just watching how low they were when we found out that news, and watching how they've leaned on each other and come together. And that effect has probably made this team really close to my heart, and just made them a really special family. It's been great to be a part of it. It sucks that we had to deal with the tragedy, but our response as a community has been truly amazing.
Yeah, it's been inspiring for us just to watch you guys go out there and play with so much passion and emotion on Friday night. So we're excited that we've been a part of the journey all 10 weeks with you guys so far. But for week 11, you're going on the road, and you got to go toe-to-toe, you versus Coach Ed Nasanti. Is it tough when you get in a matchup like that with a guy who's got more coaching experience than you probably have years on this earth, just feeling like he might have a chess move or two that you haven't even thought about before?
No. I'm excited to go up there.
Yes.
I thought last time we were up there, we had some trouble with some snaps that really put a ugly taste in our mouth after the second half. The first half, I thought we played pretty well. Frank House's older brother had a great game. Wilson, Jackson State, some of those guys played really, really tough up there, and we just kept fumbling the quarterback-center exchange, and it really hurt us in the second half. I wish we would have played clean and then beat us, and I could have slept a lot better that night. This year, I think it's the same thing. They're a good football team. They're a tough football team, but we can match up with them. We can play solid football, and I hope that we can play clean. No penalties, no turnovers. That type of stuff really haunts us. If we play clean, we're going to be in the game, and it should be a fun night.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to covering the action on Friday up at Bellevue. So hopefully you can get some solid sleep after a better performance on Friday, Matt. Thank you so much for the time, and enjoy your Sunday, man. It's great outside. Don't spend too much time breaking down the film.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll make it out for a little bit.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, Matt Dick, the head coach of the Galion Tigers. Hey, Ben, what a story for this team this season when you look at what he said. Cooper McCabe is lost, and how do you really deal with that as a community? There's no blueprint. There's no book for it because each individual, it's different, and for them, you can tell from watching the highlights and hearing from some of our videographers that we've had on the sidelines, they really are playing for Cooper, and it's giving me goosebumps just thinking about it because when there's more than football or just more than sports at play, I mean, how many times did we see Wayndell playing for a lost teammate, wins a state championship? So maybe not that Galion is in that same conversation.
Monroeville volleyball, too, what they did afterwards. You know, you either, you just, as a team, you just crumble, and there's nothing against you for doing that just because of the emotional heartache that goes through that, or you rally together, you stick with each other, and you can make something special, and that's what Galion's done, and I'm absolutely rooting for them against Bellevue. This could be the start of a awesome run for this Tiger squad, and they have the pieces that can do so.
All right, so let's take a look at another matchup that we have here within Region 14 as well. And how about the MOAC champion, Clear Fork
Who predicted that before the season?
Well, I think a lot of people, Trav. You can't pat yourself on the back too much for a loaded Clear Fork team being the favorite.
Though, week 10. I said week 10 would be for the title, too. So
and, hey, and they dominated in week 10
that was
at
impressive.
Highland. And you see right there, winners of 8 in a row, Trav. And they beat them 42-7. It was even worse than that 17 that we have up there on the board. This is a really good team from top to bottom with a senior quarterback.
The GOAT.
And a lot of veterans within the trenches, man. I really think the Clear Fork, even though they're a little underseeded in value by my estimation, I think that they're one of the favorites.
Yeah, I thought they had a good chance at getting that 4 spot, but they were just below because Elyria Catholic had a big name, had some big bonus points. But you're talking about like the offense. This is Clear Fork. They pride themselves on defense, and they have been doing phenomenal. They held Dane Nauman, the rushing champion in the area, to 79 yards rushing and no touchdowns.
Wow.
They just did a phenomenal job against him. And then we will talk about the offense. Victor Skoog, the GOAT, as Storm would say, over 1,300 yards passing, close to 1,000 yards rushing, and then Pauli Alt, him coming in to the squad this season has been great for this attack. It gives that 1-2 punch of Skoog and all. And we've seen that with most teams in this area, having multiple rushers, making offenses more dynamic and more successful.
Yeah, there's no question. Anytime that you can have the running threat of your quarterback, which Victor does just about as well as anybody in the area, 121 carries for him, and he cashes in a lot of those. 14 rushing touchdowns for him. That's more than he even has passing. But for the Vic, what he's done this year is just not turn it over. Not make dumb football plays. And when you can eliminate those, you're going to be successful. That's why the Fighting Dave Carrolls are in the position that they are, playing at home on Friday night. Fully expect them to be a big favorite against an Upper Sandusky team that can score 26 points per game, but they also give up 23.
Yeah, but you saw what they did. They upset Colonel Crawford. Yeah. I still love that call. Going for 2 in the win in overtime. They get it. They win it. And then they went up against a tough Carey squad, competed with them. So Upper Sandusky, they've been battle-tested in the regular season, and they've shown that they can compete in those close games, high scoring and low scoring. This is another one of those great. It's 5-12 again. Once again, just like Ontario Mansfield Senior, we get another area versus area showdown between these two teams. Both squads allowing 23 and 17 points per game. So this is going to be another one that I cannot wait to see on Friday night.
Well, you look at Region 14 from top to bottom, Trav, and since it is trick-or-treat season, Halloween right on the horizon, I want to hear a candy comparison from you in terms of what one of these teams reminds you of. So channeled back in your mind, you're out trick-or-treating, you got your big pillowcase, it's just, chocked full of goodies. What is a candy
right there, man,
that you're looking at that you would say, hey, this team is like this candy?
Okay, I'm going to say the Galion Tigers are like a Laffy Taffy or a candy corn, a Starburst. It's one of those teams that you enjoy it, you're eating it, but it gets stuck in your mouth, and you got to pick at it to get it out, but it just continues to stay there. That's the Galion Tigers. They're a team that will just stick around and stick around and stick around, and at the last moment, in the fourth quarter, they strike and they pull away. So it seems like, it reminds me of the Galion Tigers, just one of those teams that they just continue to be there and be there and be there and stick with you, and then at the end, bam, pull off the victory.
There you have it. Laffy Taffy Starburst Tigers team.
What color Starburst are you a fan of?
Oh, I'm a yellow guy all the way across the board.
Okay.
And
I'm red.
Mackenzie Weaver actually told me that she didn't like the yellows and saved some for me at a volleyball match a couple of weeks ago, and then ate them all during the course of the match. So I don't know what happened there, Mackenzie. You owe me a couple of candies. All right, we owe you guys a look at another region, though. Shall we move on to Division 5?
Yeah.
Region 18 now. Show you all of the teams that are competing this season. And obviously, we've got some local flavor in there. When you look at Highland, coming off that loss to Clear Fork, they're going to have to take on Sonora. The Freddies are hanging out in there. They're going to be going on the road. So those are the two teams, obviously, that we're keeping a watchful eye on, and lots of good football. Huron is a 5 seed. Really, really good football played up there. Eastwood still undefeated at 10-0.
Yeah, you have those SBC squads in there as well, but the Fighting Dane Normans dropping down to 7. Those losses that they had are tough because of bonus points.
Sure.
You thought if they could have knocked off Clear Fork, they still had a chance of getting a top 4 spot, but early on in the season, Crestview, the Cougars, 10-0, number 2 in their region, really good squad. Clear Fork as well, and then a 4-6 Triway. It's one of those early season games that maybe they're still feeling out what they needed to do, but that came back to bite them because that's what cost them 2 home games. Nonetheless, when you have the area rushing champion and Dane Nauman, back-to-back seasons of over 2,000 yards, the kid has 4 games with 300 yards rushing. When you have a playmaker like that, you got the chance of making a run in the postseason.
Yeah, Highland versus Tonora, a 7-3 versus a 7-3. Third consecutive playoff season now for the Fighting Scots in their second year under Ty Stover, who's got 15 wins so far during his coaching career. And I think you would argue that probably their best dub of the year is against Galion.
Yeah, and we see what Galion has done here late in the season, and that was Galion's lone loss in that second half of the year. So they were playing a good Galion squad. It wasn't that squad early on. They were still trying to figure things out. So it was a quality win for them, but Highland able to get the victory, and Dane Nauman was able to make some big plays on both sides of the ball in that game to get the win.
Yeah, going to be without their sophomore quarterback Stover. Of course, coach's kid broke his arm, and I was told that it was kind of a rough break for him. But when you've got the area rushing leader and one of the top running backs of the entire nation, I think that you always got a shot, and especially playing in the friendly confines at home for the Scots. So that should be a fun matchup. Let's go ahead and shine a spotlight now on Fredericktown versus number 3 Eastwood. I talked about the fact that they are off to an undefeated start, Eastwood that being. But for Fredericktown, this is a team that they've got a lot of dynamic playmakers. They didn't really showcase it that much, Trav, in the loss at Centerburg on Friday. Nonetheless, you really like what you see from guys like Tegan Rule, Ben Maskin slinging around, and Cade Carpenter, a versatile guy, can come under center and also is their big play home run hitter in the passing game.
Yeah, the losses Fredericktown has, Centerburg, the KMAC champs, they lost to Loudonville. Loudonville's a tough place to play, we found out this year. Teams go down to Loudonville and have a tough time there. Loudonville walked them off with a field goal. Danville, also one of the great teams in the area. And then week 1, 17-14 lost to Highland, one of the Highlands' closest games until that Clear Fork matchup. So they have a defense that can pull up good numbers, but Fredericktown's just ran into some really good squads in the Knox Morrow Athletic Conference. And like you said, they have 3 playmakers that are healthy. Ben Mass was out for most of the season last year, so Cade Carpenter had to play quarterback. Tegan Rule played in the Wildcat a little bit, but I think that helped them out as well, because as we saw in the Centerburg game, Carpenter can still get under center, or you have that halfback pass ability. So having those 3 guys that can play multiple positions offensively, it opens up the playbook for yourself, especially in the postseason, where you may open up that box of tricks a little bit more candy in there in your playbook.
All right, so that is Region 18. Let's take a look at D5 Region 19 now, where we've got the KMAC champions going to be participating in here, and Centerburg going to be playing at home likely for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And there's some fun matchups out there, so there's some teams obviously that are going to push Centerburg. If they get some second-round matchups with them, Trav, who would you say that you would identify as, likably the biggest challenge for Centerburg to try to make it out of this? Because 3 undefeated's all lurking.
Well, not only that, but the Portsmouth West matchup, it was the 4-5, or actually it was the 5-6 game last week. Centerburg needed Portsmouth West to win for them to get 2 home games, which happened, but they beat a Wheelersburg team that was right behind them, so that's a quality win. But you got to look at number 8, Union Local out of the OVAC. Despite being 5-4, they have played some really good squads, a 10-0 Barnesville, an 8-2 St. Clairsville, who's always deep in the postseason, Belair, who we'll see going up against Northmore, and then Cambridge as well. So this is going to be a tough bracket for Centerburg, but this year I think they have the ability to make a run with the playmakers that they have, the defense they have, the offensive line, just the whole team that they have behind Tyler Johnson and Kalen Lemaster.
Let's go ahead and showcase number 4, Centerburg, 9-1 on the season. And oh, by the way, all those 9 wins coming consecutively. They have not lost since a bit of a letdown, clear back in week 1. Andy Colella, he's doing his thing in his 7th season, and he's got his squad in the playoffs for a 3rd straight year, Trav.
Yeah, Andy has done an amazing job down there at Centerburg. They went undefeated in the COVID year, but lost to Sam Williams-Dixon in Loudonville when they got hot in the 2nd round of the postseason. And that left a bitter taste in their mouth, and they got revenge. Tyler Johnson took them down in the last seconds to beat Loudonville. He did it again against Danville, so they are battle-tested. And then you and I saw with our own eyes what they were able to do against Fredericktown, who, like I said, despite the record, Fredericktown is a good squad with what they have, and Centerburg just shut them down. Big John Geiger right in the middle on both sides of the ball. Johnson, who's, I call him Tebow 2.0. He's a fullback at quarterback, but he can also sling it. And then Kalen Lemaster, he can juke and jive around, and his speed can take him into the end zone.
Yeah, you're right. Over 1,500 rushing yards for Tyler, almost 20 tutties. And then Kalen Lemaster, that 1-2 punch, man, that's what's made them so dangerous, Travis. Almost 30 touchdowns for those two on the season, over 2,600 yards. So when they start doing that RPO look with Tyler, they spread you out. They'll motion Kalen sometimes out into the slot. They'll bring him back in, show jet sweep looks. Sometimes they give it to him. Sometimes they'll motion him out like that. So there's just so much eye candy before the snap actually happens that Coach Andy's got working for the Trojans that they're just really difficult to deal with, especially with the speed of those 2 running backs. And, oh, check it out. Sometimes they even get lucky, too, with tip passes for touchdowns.
Yeah, everything was working their way in that game. But also the field vision that Tyler Johnson and Lemaster has. There's some plays that are meant to go up the middle, but they can see it, read it, and bounce to the outside. And when they get to full speed, they can take off. And like I said, the offensive line, too, can open up holes. We saw how many gaps you could drive a truck through up the middle that they were able to bust through and get 10, 11 yards per carry on that. So Centerburg, I think they have a chance of having a very special playoff run this year if everything can continue to go their way.
And we'll definitely be down there on Friday night for some live and free coverage of the Trojans. So you can definitely check back with us here on the OH Report for everything Centerburg football. It's past the noon hour, though, so can we get a quick update on the countdown here to depression? That's right, Browns fans. We are closing in less than an hour away from that Browns versus Ravens game. And for now, I'm still smiling, Travis.
Hey. At least in 56 minutes and 10 seconds, we will have 7 hours of uninterrupted football in the red zone. I will be watching all day up until my Steelers have to go to Miami and probably get run all over by what time about that. Can we get the D6 Region 22, please?
Let's go ahead and show you who's going to be playing in Region 22. This is a loaded bracket from top to bottom with our local teams, but you're going to notice some teams up at the top, some familiar faces and defending champions like the Carey Blue Devils, who are going to have a matchup with Riverdale. And you look at Crestview lurking. They're still undefeated. Colonel Crawford had a fantastic season. Margaretta's going to be playing them. Seneca East, another team, maybe a sleeper team here in the region with 7 wins, but they've got a tough game on the road against Hopewell Loudon. Where do we begin? Travis, what do you want to talk about first?
How about we talk about the defending, reigning state champions in the Carey Blue Devils. 25 wins in a row. they just lost multiple All-Ohioans last season, and they continue to roll. Their JV squad was really great last year, and those players just filled in those spots, and they're continuing to run all over teams. They have 5 players over 200 yards rushing. They have 4 players over 350 yards rushing, 3 over 450. It's just this rushing attack continues to be so successful, and their defense phenomenal as well.
Well, let's hear from the guy that kind of stirs the straw around there. We have got Jonathan Merschman, the coach, the state champion coach, joining us right now on the OH Report hotline. And before we go any further, Coach Mersch, I just do want to issue a public apology specifically to you and Blue Devil Nation. In the preseason, I gave no love to Carey. I didn't think you were going to be able to duplicate the season that you guys have put on full display in front of my eyes. And guess what? Now you got my attention. I'm a believer. Carey, baby. Can't believe that you've done it, Coach. So please accept my apology and tell us, how have you done it? 25 straight wins, man.
Well, we used to have here that build off senior last year and trying to put the twist on it. It's doing a great job. Those guys.
And good thing you did the apology. You don't want to be like the guy next to Coach Merschman right there. So, yeah. What's the guy? Is their opponents? Yeah.
So, yeah, you graduate a legendary senior class from a season ago, Coach. So I think there's got to be some proof in the pudding to just building championship DNA. What have you seen from some of your younger guys that have gotten their first taste of varsity experience that they've been able to step in and just play big-time football right away?
Yeah, I mean, we had some guys who turned flat that were role players, and then now they're filling those from last year's seniors, and I think they're doing a great. Then we had young guys step into the role job, and those guys have done a real job of stepping into those roles. And, it still goes back to leadership. Our whole program is built off senior leadership. I think they're doing a fantastic job of showing the way.
Well, Coach, you've got one of the top defensive units in the state regardless of division. How much of that is just pride and attitude and doing their job? And how much of that is you probably deserve a pat on the back along with some of your other coaches out there for putting these guys in the right positions to succeed?
Yeah, we pride ourselves on basically 2 things, defense and running the ball. That's what Carey's always prided itself on. And I have some phenomenal assistants that help me take care of that defense. When it comes to about Thursday, I'm hands off on the defense, and those guys all take over. And I got 3 fantastic guys, DJ Dyer, Gordon Stock, and Tyler Phoenix. I think those 3 handle all 3 parts of the defense. Fantastic.
Coach, last year you guys had kind of like the underdog role as you ran through the playoffs to that state championship. It's completely switched around this time. You're number 1 in your region. You're a state-ranked squad, and the target now is on your back. Just what have you guys been able to do to just, take that, target on your back mentality and go week in and week out and be so successful?
Well, yeah, like you said, last year we were kind of the underdogs. This year, now we target. I thought, again, the seniors have done a job of switching that role, explaining to the younger guys what that means. We're trying to get everybody effort week in and week out. Hopewell took us, Upper Sandusky took us to the wire 2 weeks ago because they gave us their best effort, just like they gave Colonel Crawford their best effort. And that's a program that's, changed things.
I know that you're not going to overlook Riverdale because that's your opponent on Friday. But when you look at the region as a whole, who are you kind of keeping an eye on that you want to see the results from this first weekend to see if they're the real deal?
You're not going to get me to say it just on Riverdale. But
okay. Well played, Coach. Well played. Last question that I got for you before we let you get back to rocking the opponent to death over there is just what... Tell me about the Gatorade bath. You've had a couple of really nice ones now during your career. What does that feel like? Because you got to be maybe like mad at first, but then once it soaks in and you're cold on the sideline, there's got to be something soothing about it too. What is that whole experience like?
Well, like last Friday night, I didn't know we had 3, so I avoided the first one, and then they got me wrong. The only problem I don't like, as one of the big, got my leg bad, but it's all for a good. The guys just are having fun, celebrating. That's what you got to realize, celebrate wins, enjoy them. You don't know when this is going to end. Hopefully, it won't end for a long, long time, but you don't know for sure. So enjoy every win, enjoy the experience, and overall, it's fun.
Yeah, when you're winning at the clip that you are, Coach, I bet it is fun. So continue success out there. Keep rocking out in Carey. Obviously, you've got our attention, my guy, and we're looking forward to seeing another deep, prosperous run in the postseason. Enjoy your Sunday.
Thanks, Coach.
Much, guys, for having me.
Anytime. All right, Trav, let's take a little bit deeper look at this matchup now. Carey versus the number 16 seed in Riverdale, because Coach said that he wasn't going to make a comment about anybody except for them. So let's show you what this matchup actually looks like and means to the Blue Devils. And we've got a ton of Blue Devils fans I see that are watching live and free right now on the Facebook and the YouTube. So let's continue to tell you more about the defending D6 state champions and, what it is that they're up against here, taking on a Falcon squad from the Dale.
Yeah, Riverdale averaging 26 points per game, but they're allowing 32. So we got to see, and in their last 4 or 5 games, allowing 42 points per game. So this is a tough test. They're going to have to get defensively really battle tested against Carey because they're just going to run the ball all over them. And then Lance Rickle also, he can pass. It's 826 yards through the air. So another balanced squad that Carey, it's going to be a tough test. That's all I'm going to say.
And you talked about the rushing attack for them. That's our spotlight. We couldn't just pick one guy because they have so many out there that are toting the rock in Carey country that are getting the job done. Rickle, Steen, Norden, and Niederkor, all over 350 rushing yards, Trav. I mean, they're almost at 3K as a team. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. They have so many. If you go back and look at the statistics, over 15 guys have run the ball, and that's, some of those JV backup players also get in, but they're successful as well. And like I said, there's 5 players over 220 yards rushing. You had Landon Kemmerly also has 122, so 6 rushers in triple digits rushing. None of them are going to make the stat leaders because they spread the wealth, but that's good as well because nobody has over 100 carries. So they're going to be fresh going into the postseason. That's exactly what you want to see when you're in the postseason. You want to be peaking, you want to be fresh, and that's what Carey's offense has right now.
41 rushing touchdowns as a unit for the Blue Devils. That's how they get it done. Tough, hard-nosed defense, holding all their opponents in check, and we fully expect Carey to move on to the second round. All right, let's take a look at another first-round matchup, including a fellow undefeated 10-0 Crestview back-to-back 10-0 perfect regular seasons for them. They are going to have the number 15 seed in Wayne Trace when they take the field on Friday night. And what a job by Steve Haverdill. You got to give a lot of love out there to Coach. Now in his 4th season, 37 wins on the campaign trail for him over these last few years. It's been really cool to watch.
Yeah, and back-to-back-to-back Firelands champions. They shared it 2 years ago, but 4th consecutive playoff appearance. He has them back in there, knocking off St. Paul back-to-back seasons after not doing it in 11 years, I believe.
Correct.
But the players that he has on this team as well, and this is another story of losing a couple All-Ohioans, but continually rolling on without skipping a beat.
Yeah, 4th consecutive playoff appearance for them. And look at the disparity in terms of what they're scoring, which isn't like a crazy number, but still pretty good, 37. But when you're holding your opponents to 10 or less on every single night, that's big time because every opponent that they've played has not been able to top the 17-point mark. That's huge.
That is great. That's Clear Fork numbers. But in Division 6, and they've gone up against some good attacks as well, rushing attacks. St. Paul had 2 rushers over 1,000 yards. They shut them down. Dane Nauman has over 2,000 yards by himself. They were able to shut him down as well. And a couple teams that had a passing attack they were able to contain. So this defense is great, but then you have Addison Raymer on the other side, who is a bell cow for this team. And they even shut down, I can't forget, the Lucas rushing attack as well. Lucas runs down the field, but they get stops, and they were able to get a big lead against them as well. So this team battle-tested in the regular season, the 2 seeds, so we won't see possibly, knock on wood, the Carey-Crestview matchup this time until the regional final. Last year was regional semis. The year before that was regional quarters. So, something's got to give. But I know Colonel Crawford and other teams have something to say about that. But Crestview, just like Carey, battle-tested and ready to get a deep run in the postseason.
I'm glad that you brought up Colonel Crawford, because even though they are a number 8 seed, I think they're very worthy of turning a spotlight on Travis. This is a quality team that suffered just 2 losses on their season. One very surprising loss. The other one came down to the wire against Carey, in a game that they really did have within their grasp. So I feel like the Eagles team, they are playing at home in week number 11, but I feel like this is a better team in terms of where they're seated, in terms of their talent and their progress as a program, because Jake Brunner, even though he's a first-year head coach out there for them, they've got a track record now of success, does Colonel Crawford, and I'm thinking that they're going to be a pretty large favorite in this 8-9 matchup, which usually are pretty even.
Yeah, and it has to say with the Northern 10, some of the bottom teams, not a lot of playoff points. They could have gotten major points out of a Division IV squad in Upper Sandusky, but Upper Sandusky scores that 2-point conversion in overtime to beat them. Seneca East was a good win for them as well, but other than that, teams that they played just haven't gotten a lot of wins. That's why they're down so low, but they do get that one home game against Margaretta, and another one of those lower seeds that, hey, you get past week 1, you're probably going to see Carey in a rematch up at Carey this time, and you never know what could happen. They've already shown that they can compete with the Division VI state champions from a year ago.
Yeah, I'd definitely sign up for round 2 of that one. And for the Polar Bears, you don't want to count them out, of course. Their 2 losses on the season, just by a combined 17 points. And they're 3-2 this year against teams that have winning records. So the Polar Bears, definitely no slouch. But for Colonel Crawford, their 2 losses by just a combined 5 points. And both of them, they should have won. You really can look at the Carey game, and then Upper Sandusky, clearly, that was, I don't want to say it was a meltdown for them in the 4th quarter, but some weird things happened. Stuff kind of like that forced them to be in the position where they're the number 8 seed. But this is a high-scoring team, 41 per contest, and defensively they are stout. They give up, very similarly to Crestview, just about 10.
Defense wins championships, and defense gets you far in the postseason. A good offense can get you so far, but if you get into a shootout, you never know what could happen. But when you're holding 6 opponents to 7 or less points in the regular season, that's pretty darn good, one of them being Carey.
All right, we're going to take a look at one last matchup that we have here within the region, and that's Seneca East versus Hopewell Loudon. And this is going to be a fun matchup. Tigers got to go on the road. They got to play a Chieftains team that they're pretty much in the postseason year in, year out, so you can expect them to be a tough test, of course. And that was the only team to beat Carey last year on their way to the state championship.
Week 1.
Before they rattled off 15 in a row. So this is going to be definitely a fun test for the Tigers, who had to play their way into the postseason with those 7 victories.
Yeah, and the 2 conference losses that Seneca East has, their teams are combined 18-2, being Colonel Crawford and Carey. Hopewell Loudon put up a test against Carey in week 1 this year, was 37-8, and they also lost to a good Lima Central Catholic squad that I believe you saw in person, 31-8. So other than the 2 losses, Hopewell Loudon, a very good squad, but once again, some of those bonus points in their conference kept them low, and you'll see that there's a lot of teams this year, especially with the top 16 now because of everything that's happened the last couple of years, that you may see some lower seeds make a run this coming playoff season.
Yeah, the 2 really good quality teams that were able to beat Hopewell Loudon, as you alluded to. 16-4 combined record there. They've scored at least 29 points, though, in 6 of their games, Travis, so I like what their offense is able to bring to the equation, but how about Blake Foose? This is as dynamic a playmaker as we have in North Central Ohio. You want to talk about the leading rusher in the Northern 10? Oh, by the way, he's a quarterback, and he's the 2nd leading passer in the league as well.
He's phenomenal. Also leading 2 game-winning drives in the last seconds. We talked about the Mohawk game a couple times for Blake Foose, but the back-to-back weeks he did it, where he scored touchdowns late. So he's able to bring you back when time is running out. But Blake Foose, another great player in the Northern 10 Conference, putting up a good test. But like I said, the two teams ahead of them, Carey and Colonel Crawford, were able to handle them. But other than that, Seneca East, a very good team offensively. What do you got over there?
Yeah, I'd like to make a candy comparison here for this Tigers team, and I don't see the particular candy that I want in here. But what I would liken them to is kind of like a Three Musketeers bar. Okay, Travis, because it may not be a Snickers, it may not be a Reese's, so there's no peanut butter filling, you're not going to get the nuts with the caramel and stuff. But can we just focus on the really tasty nougat and how well they get that to mix with the chocolate blend on the outside? Can we just focus on that for a minute and not worry about the couple of components that they don't have in the candy mixture? I'm always down for a good Three Musketeer bar. They're delicious.
They are good.
But maybe not on the top tier as some of those other candies that just have a few more elements. Always like a Reese's.
Gotta love the peanut butter.
Yeah, there's a couple of really good candies in here. We got some
Snickers. Got the peanuts and everything. Oh, look.
Oh, how about some
Trojan twists. There you go. Carey baby.
Oh yeah, all caramel and milk chocolate. And then I can't fully see
peanut
what
butter
we got
candy
here.
pieces up there for Crestview. The Cougar running gun. I like
looks
this.
Delicious.
That's all good. I mean, you gotta love anything with some peanut butter in it. Is that right?
Yeah, sign me up. All right, let's advance the show now. Let's check out Division 6, Region 23. And just got one team that we're really going to focus on in here. Maybe a couple, Travis, because when you look at the local flavor in here, you'll notice that we've got Loudonville able to get them a home game and Mount Gilead back into the playoffs. They've got 6 victories on the year. So those two. And then Northmore, hey, don't want to count out the Golden Knights at 5-5.
Yeah, but the Golden Knights got to go to my grandparents, and my mom and uncle were raised, their hometown in Blair, Ohio. I'm saying that it's a long drive for the Golden Knights back to the Ohio River. 2-3 without Max Lauer. Lauer's back, so the Golden Knights, we'll see what they can do in their 6th consecutive playoff appearance. We talked about Mount Gilead finally into the postseason, the earned postseason spot for the first time this turn of the century, this millennium.
Right.
Their 4 losses were to playoff teams. Going up against a good Worthington Christian squad where they had 3 losses by 2 scores or less. And then 3 of those losses also to teams that combined 27-3, so a battle-tested squad. But Mount Gilead got Matthew Bland and Garrett George, 2 of the another 1-2 punch rushing attack in the KMAC. And then Loudonville, I said it's a tough place to play, so getting that one home game is great for them going up against 10th-seeded Rock Hill. They're 5-1 at home, outscoring their opponents 148-105, and they won their final 4 games by a margin of 159-76. So Loudonville is peaking at the right moment, and they get Rock Hill on their home turf. Good chance to come out with a victory there just by how they have played at home.
Yeah, Rock Hill hasn't been great against good quality teams this season. Just 2-5 when they've had their opportunities in those games, and they've allowed 30-plus points in 6 of their matchups. So Loudonville, a dangerous offense. Expect them at home to be the favorite. Always tough to win at the bird cage out there. And I probably need to issue another public apology here. You know, I gave one to Coach Mershman and Carey. But Mount Gilead, I got to say, I picked them to finish dead last in the KMAC.
I actually probably have to apologize to them as well, yeah.
Didn't expect much from them, and here they are. You see above another KMAC opponent in Northmore in there. So big shout out to the Indians. So they've got a tough matchup with Worthington Christian, who's 3 losses this season, all just by 2 scores or less.
One of them is Centerburg, where they came back.
Yep.
Centerburg had to score late to get that victory, so, you know, they are battle-tested. A former Steeler as their head coach as well, so, you know, maybe bringing Bill Cowher's offense into there, but Worthington Christian is an up-and-coming squad, but you can't count out Matthew Bland and company.
Yeah, I like his numbers on the season. He's almost at 1,000 yards passing. He's got 8 touchdowns, but on the ground is where he really gets it done, and he's one of those dynamic, versatile threats.
I mean, watch this play right here. I still don't understand how he was able to score from this. Jukes, he was nearly untouched after picking up that fumble, and then outruns the Northmore defense and avoids the referee trying to take him down as well. He did that multiple times against Northmore, and completely impressive. Also, one of the best interviews I had, a very well-spoken young gentleman down there at Mount Gilead and leading his team. They said that they were focused on this season, the last couple of years being the year that they could really show out, and they have done so thus far.
And he looks like he's got speed where you don't really feel like he's running fast, but he's getting
I mean, that looked like he was going to be just knocked out of bounds, and then he just kicks it in overdrive.
Maybe they just need to have miscommunication on the snap every time. It
Right?
seems to go well for Mount Galion
Right?
on these replays. So look for the Indians earning their way into the playoffs to perform well on the road at Worthington Christian. And another team who's got to go on the road, your Golden Knights north of Northmore. What kind of chance do you give them against the number 3 squad who...
Well, they're Big Red.
They're hot right now, too. They've won 5 of 6, Trav.
They have won 5 of 6, and they played down in the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference. The Golden Knights, though, they have Northmore versus Travis Graham. That's great. It's my grandfather is from Belair, not the grandmother. Thank you very much. Nah, that's funny, guys. But they got to take the trick down there, and I don't know if they're actually going to play at Belair's field because Belair does not have lights, and they're playing on Friday nights. So they might be playing at Shady Side right down the road, or at Bridgeport or Martins Ferry as well. None of you know where that is, but everybody, maybe somebody's tuning in from the Ohio Valley knows where that is. But Northmore's going to have a long bus trip, but they get a healthy Max Lauer back, so we'll see. Maybe, just maybe.
All right, Trav, I think it's time to jump into our final region that we want to break down on the day, and that is Division 7, Region 25. And, wait a minute! Just 33 minutes until misery for me, so I'm going to keep up the good positive attitude here. I'm having a great time until kickoff, and then we know how the day ends. But at least for now, feeling really good about myself. And you know who else should be feeling good about themselves? How about those Hillsdale Falcons?
Absolutely.
Flying into the postseason. Yep. They've got some momentum on their side.
Do.
And I believe their head coach is going to be hanging out with us. Let's go ahead and bring in Trevor Klein right now.
Patiently waiting.
I see that too. Coach, where are you hanging out at, and what are you up to on this fine Sunday? Yeah, I'm sorry, Coach. We had your audio turned down here in the studio, so I saw some gums a-flapping, but I didn't hear anything. If you don't mind, give me round 2. What's news in Jeromesville today?
I'm just hanging out at my house, breaking down film and getting ready to meet with the players tonight.
Okay, that's cool to hear. And Coach, whoever they are, they say it's not really how you start, it's how you finish. Tell me about the 5 wins in the last 6 and how the Falcons have been getting it done. What's been the storylines out there?
So our guys have just done a nice job continuously working hard throughout the season. Early on, we dealt with some injuries, and we're still dealing with some injuries, but our guys have done a good job of the next guy that was up, has stepped in and played well, and we've done a better job of being more consistent the last, I would say, 5 to 6 games, because early on our biggest issue was we couldn't get out of our own way, and we've been doing a better job of being more consistent. We've been able to have success.
To kind of expand on that, most of your losses really came down to the wire. Was it hard to not think about the what-ifs at times this season? Or are you one of those guys that you can just kind of put it in the rear view and not think about what could have been in terms of, I mean, this team really likably could be like a top 2-3 seed out there in the region.
Yeah, you always think about those what-ifs because obviously you want to win every game. But you also have to move on from it because you can't dwell on the past because you can't go back and change things. So that's the biggest thing this year is obviously some of those games I felt we should have won and we didn't, but we just got to move on and obviously just keep looking to the future.
Coach, you play in the tough WCAL, and also you had a tough non-conference schedule with Loudonville, now your rival that's over in the KMAC. They're in the postseason. Lucas, we did the game, the missed extra point tough, a close game you're in there as well. And then, Norwayne and Northwestern, 2 of the top teams in your conference, but you have some great wins against Dalton, against Smithville. Just what does your conference schedule do to get you guys ready for a possible run like this in the postseason?
Yeah, for me, I know some people are upset about going to the 16 playoff teams in a region, but for us at Hillsdale, it's an advantage for us because going through the WCL is tough, and there are some times where we feel like if we're on the outside 8 looking in, we felt we had a team that if we got into the playoffs, we would have been able to make some noise. And that's the thing now with there being 16 playoff teams. If you can get through the WCL and make it into the playoffs, you feel that you have a shot at making a run. And obviously for us this year is we got to take it one game at a time. But we feel after going through the WCL and our non-conference schedule that we have the ability to play with anyone.
And I've been down there when I interviewed you, that beautiful new stadium, that new turf. What's it going to be like getting that home playoff game on that brand new turf coming up on Friday night?
It's going to be awesome. We have a very supportive community at Hillsdale, and it's going to be a neat experience for everyone involved to be down at our new stadium, playing our first home playoff game in our new stadium. So there's going to be a lot of excitement. I know we're looking forward to playing in front of our home crowd.
Yeah, what kind of home field advantage do you feel like you have out there in Falcon Country? Do you have a pretty ravenous fan base? Like just on Friday night, me and Travis were out at a high school football stadium where some of the fans, they come out, they reserve seats on a Wednesday. They'll put their blankets down and stuff. How would you describe what you get in terms of community support out there in Falcon Country?
Yeah, we have great community support. Even when our team struggled in years past, there's always fans that show up to the games. And actually, they had to implement a rule at our new stadium of you can't put down blankets early in the week, because that's what would happen at our old stadium is there'd be people coming on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and duct taping blankets down so they could save their spots. They're actually not allowed to do that anymore. So we have great support out at Hillsdale. It doesn't matter if you're having a lot of success or you're struggling, they will show up and support. So it's definitely neat being part of something like that.
Well, congratulations on the late rally here on the season to get yourself into the playoffs yet again, Trevor. 7th straight year that you're into the tournament, so we're looking forward to seeing how it progresses for you out there in Hillsdale Country. Get a big win on Friday.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, so Trevor Klein and his guys are going to be taking on Conotton Valley, both teams with 6-4 records. We'll show you a little bit more about that contest. But Trevor, in particular, this is a guy, since he's taken over the program, all they've really known is success. Great coach out there, and you know that his guys are going to be prepared. They're meeting tonight, as he said right there in the interview. 5-1 down the stretch, so this is a team, they're boiling hot right now.
Yeah, their 7th consecutive playoff appearance at Hillsdale. 3 losses by 1 score, and we talked about it. The Hillsdale loss to Lucas 14-13. They lost by 5 to Northwestern as well, and actually it was 2 scores to Loudonville, 14-0. But those early games, you think if they got off a little bit harder start, maybe they get 2 more wins out of that, maybe knock off Lucas, Loudonville. I do want to talk about that Lucas game one more time that you and I saw in person. The way they were able to come back, that late score, 2 big pass plays to get you open. Fickus and Haverstock, 2 great players. And once again, Haverstock, one of those players that can run and throw the ball. So, those dual threat quarterbacks are the ones that are taking their teams to the promised land postseason.
Yeah, that's the wave right now, of course, all across football at every level, as you see in the NFL here in less than 30 minutes. My Brown's going to go against a dual-threat quarterback today, so they're all over the place. And there are the Lucas Cubs, and we know about the track record. They're in the postseason again under Scott Spittler. That's all they've done is win, 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 except for down the stretch this year. Very un-Lucas-like, 1-5. In their last 6 here, Travis.
But look who they played,
I mean, my goodness. Arlington is a 9-win team. Fort Loramie is an 8-win team. Lima Central Catholic, 6 wins. Crestview, of course, undefeated. And Mogador is undefeated. So why did Lucas get a 10 seed when they're 4-6? Well, that's why they play the who's who all around the state. But that's what you have to do when you're Coach Spittler and his staff and you're not in a conference is you got to go play anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. And that is their pedigree. That's what they do. That's the mantra out there, other than the RPO where they'll just truck you if you get in their way. So don't stand on the tracks when the train's coming through and it's full of Cubs, because this team is loaded. I think they have such a great secondary, and we fully anticipate, even though they're going on the road at number 7, Toronto.
Another team all the way down Route 30 to the river. That's another 2.5-hour drive, but
But we expect the Cubs to be
absolutely
victorious.
6 losses were to teams with a combined 51-8 record.
Absurd.
Talk about battle-tested. And it's Lucas, I would even say, underseeded at number 10. I really feel bad for Toronto having to have a first-round matchup at home against this squad because Lucas is playing. If Lucas played a D7 schedule, maybe one loss. You know, they play up, they play, they play anybody. And we've seen that year in and year out. So Lucas, I think, is ready for this, and I would not be surprised one little bit if they get 3 rounds into the postseason at least.
Yeah, they're going to be motivated by their first losing season since 2013. Doesn't happen to them very often. And you look at the opponent, too, in Toronto. They didn't beat a team with a winning record all year long. So, they lost to East Knox a couple of seasons ago. This is a team that we are familiar with a little bit here in OH Report Country. So we're thinking that it's going to be feasting season for the Cubs going on the road, because of all the tough games that they have already played in so far this year. All right, Trav, let's take a look at the number 3 seed in Danville going against the number 14. So the Devils playing at home, and their 2 losses, again, great competition. Yeah. So this is a team that we expect to be battle-tested heading into a big playoff showdown.
Yeah, D5 Region 18, North Union, they lost 28-0. North Union is playing in the postseason as a 13 seed in D5, but the Blue Devils also, the other loss, Tyler Johnson taking them down the field after Danville takes the lead late in the fourth quarter to score that touchdown, 16-11, that turned out to be for the KMAC championship. Other than that, they have just handled their opponents. They beat Mount Gilead 19-8, but they were up 19-0 at the break. Devil Dog, they took care of easily. Northmore as well, they handled them. Loudonville, 19-7. So they took care of against those good KMAC playoff squads as well with their own lone loss going against the KMAC champion Centerburg Trojans.
Yeah, I really like this Danville team. They're just steady. We've seen at different times during the year they got hot. They had the 4 straight wins in the middle of the season before Centerburg ended it in what was a really good game.
It was.
And now they've bounced back-to-back wins for them to close out the regular season, finishing number 2 within the KMAC, and then that loss to North Union. I mean, that's the only game that you would look at and kind of scratch your head. How did this Danville Blue Devils team get shut out? Because they've got some fun, exciting players on offense.
Max Payne, Walker Weckesser. Yeah. Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Yep. We'll probably have to have more than a Coke after 1 o'clock with the countdown to misery still on here for us Browns fans.
We still have one more team to cover as well.
We do. So let's talk about the next game that we're really zeroing in on here on this Region 25 bracket, and that is Norwalk St. Paul, the Flyers. Anytime they get into the tournament, you know that this is a dangerous squad with Coach Levengood up there. So let's see who they're going to be playing. Number 12, Libson David Anderson, the number 12 seed, as I mentioned. So that means the Flyers are going to be playing at home.
Yep, Lisbon David Anderson, 5-5, the 12 seed, going up against Coach Livengood, who has now 301 career victories. So congratulations, Coach. 2009 game I think you covered for the 4-letter network across the way in the D6 state championship. 11 playoff appearances in a row. Talk about consistency for the St. Paul Flyers. But the bugaboo is when they get into the postseason, not being able to do too much since 2009. But they have the playmakers to do so. 32.7 points per game, defense allowing 23. But that ballooned a little bit in the loss to Crestview on a couple trick plays and a 92-yard run. But the rushing attack that the St. Paul Flyers have between Mr. Krabs and Mr. Berger, the SpongeBob duo, you could say, just running all over the place. As we take a look at our player spotlight, Mr. Quincy Krabs from the Flyers, the Firelands Conference rushing champion, 232 yards, 232 carries, 1,797 yards, and 20 touchdowns for St. Paul. And then Berger as well, over 1,000 yards. He's in the top 10 rushing as well in the area.
And when you look at what the Blue Devils have been able to do this season, they got spanked a little bit down the stretch, Travis. They had losses of 45-6 to United and then 27-6 against Columbiana, who only had 2 wins checking into that game. So you expect the Flyers to get healthy in this one and Krabs and company to go off and get a victory at home up there at Contractor Stadium, where they've had a lot of success, at least in the regular season here over the last several seasons.
And I believe this is the second time in 3 years that Lisbon David Anderson is playing a Firelands squad. Think of a game you did a couple years ago. They came up and played Plymouth.
They did.
The lone game that we did. So, you know, probably a little bit of tape on there from Plymouth that they still share tapes. And I don't know, you go on a huddle or anymore. I just remember when we played, you had to actually give coaches tapes to
I think
review
we're
other
past that now.
teams. Yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
just guessing that. I don't think that there's any more, hey, I'll see you at, 1 a.m. in the McDonald's parking lot, your VHS for mine, and hopefully there's a couple of usable plays on there. All right, we're going to take one more quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to court, and you are going to come along with us. Travis and I are both going to state our case. We don't even know who we're going to actually be representing just eight. Yeah, it's going to be completely random. So I'm going to get dressed up like a judge, and we're going to see what Trav has for me. He's going to be the plaintiff on the other side.
What's up, America? Brian Skowronski here, and if you want to see me and the gang chop it up with some unintelligent conversation, we've got the show for you. Check out the OH Report video podcast every Monday, exclusively, right here on the OH Report.
Very nice look to Denbo. Beautiful behind the back move. Oh my goodness, ankle breaker. And it's the shot. Wow.
Being aggressive and traveling, or he's trapping. Inside to Holloway.
2-on-2 fast break. Ramsey has it, takes it herself. Off the glass. And Curfew comes back.
At Knox Community Hospital, your primary care physician is more than someone who delivers your test results, more than someone who writes prescriptions, more than someone who listens to your heart. We are your healthcare partner who takes the time to know you, listen to your concerns, and provide you with expert personalized care to make and keep you well. Because to us, you're more than just numbers on a chart. You're a neighbor and a friend. Knox Community Hospital, in the community, for the community.
I'm Travis Big League Berardi. Catch me every week with my Country Roads rankings. We'll go over the small school top 10 football schools here in the area.
Our number one receiver coming from the Shelby Whippets, Isaiah Ramsey.
He's caught our attention over here, and we're certainly going to keep an eye on the Willard Flashes.
We will see you next week on the Stat Leaders, brought to you by Spitzer of Mansfield.
Take a look at all the action from Friday Night Football right here in North Central Ohio with great analysis, highlights, coach interviews, and so much more every single Friday night right here on the OH Report.
All rise, the Honorable Judge Brian Skowronski presiding.
Well, everybody, welcome into court. Plaintiff,
Judge.
please come in. Put your hand on our Brown's Bible here.
My hand's burning. Why is, oh, it's brown, that's why.
Raise your left hand and repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear
Do I solemnly swear
to cheer for the Browns?
to cheer for the Browns?
I know you're not going
No.
to. But to bask in the misery with us throughout the day, today, as we do every Sunday, forever and ever.
Is there food?
Amen.
Amen. Okay.
All right, go ahead and take a seat. And there's the countdown. That's right. We're happy for now. In 11 minutes, typically that will change. Browns versus Ravens. Who knows? Maybe today's the day that we get it done. Order in the court.
Okay.
All right, plaintiff. I've got here a mismatch of different teams. These are top 4 seeds in their regions that we have spoke on already today. So you've got some familiarity. You're not going to be coming in completely blind. Okay. I want you to pick one of these and state your case for why one of these top 4 seeds, for sure, is going to win their region. I want to see some conviction, no circumstantial evidence. I want all the raw facts.
I have, sir. D5 Region 19, the number 4 seeded Centerburg Trojans. Hallelujah. pastor, judge, whatever you are. Tyler Johnson, Kalen LeMaster, the best 1-2 punch in all of K-Mac land. Tyler Johnson, as we saw, getting looked at by the Ohio State University. So you know when the Buckeyes are in the house, he is a playmaker, not only on the offensive side, but the defensive side as well as a defensive back. Kalen LeMaster, got to shout out Big John Geiger, who's watching right now, I think. So hi, John, on both sides of the ball, just the big man in the middle that opens up holes and gets into the backfield on the other side of the ball. This Centerburg team, the best Centerburg team I think I've seen in quite some time, and they have the ability to win a regional championship. Book it. Even this is Browns book. Book it. They're going to win it.
There's no wins with the Browns, and you know that. Luckily for the Trojans, they've got a lot this season and looking to add to it. I accept your plea, and I grant you, well, the chance to give me one more here, Mr. Plaintiff. So we're going to go to the bottom half now, and these are going to be some teams outside, what did we decide, outside of the top 6?
Bottom 8 seed while they win the first matchup.
Okay, so a bottom 8 seed. Why is the team that you're about to draw going to be the winner in their first round matchup? Choose wisely, son.
Are you a judge or are you a priest?
I don't know. I think I'm a combination.
D6 Region 2, number 11 squad, the Seneca East Tigers, and one Blake Foose. Need I say more? Blake Foose.
You had me there.
Dual threat quarterback. I said that a lot today, but dual threat quarterbacks on teams have made them very successful this season, and Blake Foose is one of the better dual threat quarterbacks in the Northern 10. Tough losses, to Colonel Crawford and to Carey, and I think a shootout to Willard, Crimson Flashes, who kind of fell back towards the end of the season, barely missed the postseason. But Seneca East and Blake Foose, we saw he can take his team down in the final seconds, get that last second win he did in back-to-back weeks. And I think he's going to be he will take his team down the field for a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter to get a round 1 victory. Book it. Not on that. I don't have another book that's relevant, unlike the Browns, but book it. Seneca East is going to do the job.
So you're telling me if you got a good quarterback, you got a clutch quarterback, that you've got a chance, that's where the Tigers can get it done. I say splendid. All right, Travis. One last one for you, and it's the Cinderella team. So I'm going to give you a region here and a team that is outside of the top 8, I think. Well, one of the higher seeds here, and you got to state your case. Make me believe it. Give me some real, genuine, authentic evidence here as to why this team should pass my standards and you don't get locked up today. There's already calls for your head out there.
Division 6, Region 2's number 8 seed, the Colonel Crawford Eagles. Ooh. You already saw what they did against the Carey Blue Devils, the best team in Division 6, the reigning, defending state champions. They had the lead late, but a last-second touchdown. Actually, they had a chance to take the lead even bigger, but fumbled it away. This is a team that, okay, they lost a tough one, fumbled the ball away a little bit, let Upper Sandusky come back and win it on a 2-point conversion, but this team is battle-tested, and they get through that first-round matchup. They get that rematch with Carey. They beat Carey. The sky is the limit for this team, and they may be going on to at least a regional championship appearance.
Sir, are you trying to tell me that the Eagles are going to fly past the Blue Devils and get into the third round? Is that what I'm hearing here?
Ha-ha!
Let's restore order in this court! Actually, that's a pretty good argument.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I'm going to take it. No prison time for Travis here today, but we're about to go to jail if you're a Browns fan just like me. That's right, the countdown, it's looming. Kickoff is just a few minutes away, so if you're like me, you need to get in the proper mindset. I'm probably going to have to lose this outfit and go get proper medication.
You a priest or are you a judge?
I think I'm both. I don't know. I'm using an actual hammer for nails like I'm a contractor out here, Travis. I'm a mismatch of a lot of things. I don't really have an identity.
Well, if you've been injured in an accident, call the offices of Berardi, Lenardi, and Beraldo today.
And that's going to be our show. Thanks for sticking with us here on the Bracket Breakdown. We had a lot of fun, talked to a lot of great coaches, and we're looking forward to tons of action on Friday night because all the teams are playing, of course, these next 2 weeks on Friday night. So stay blessed out there, my children of the Pigskin, and we'll see you with an all-new edition of the Friday Pigskin, of course, on Friday night. All the action that you need to know about. But for now... I'm going to take in some of this good feelings, these great vibes. I'm going to watch my Browns. So long.
Bless you, son.